I'm Tyler.
And I'm MC. And the only reason why we know each other at all is because we were both active online in the Imagine Dragons fandom in 2017.
It's sad, and it's true, and it could happen to someone you know. Anyways, you might have noticed that I'm a different person, and I'm also Canadian, and you might be wondering why I'm here. Well, the two of us know too much about Imagine Dragons, and we don't like it.
So, why exactly are we making such a long video about this band?
I'm barely employed, and a masochist.
I wanted to use our cursed knowledge for some good usage other than just having facts about Dan Reynolds floating around my brain forever. So, anyway, in this video we have one big question. Why are Imagine Dragons so popular yet so hated at the same time?
Just for you got the eyes with the broken dreams, and all I ever wanted was a second to breathe a day. Now look at the sea as it comes to you, but only for a second and it sinks into the deep. I'm so far away, and I'm falling into the sea.
Imagine Dragons is a four-piece pop band from Las Vegas, Nevada. Or are they? They are best known for making music for video games that people find annoying and clown on, but before that, they were best known for making music for car commercials that people found annoying and clowned on. But before that, they had their humble beginnings in Mormonism. Hey, what?
If you were unaware, the lead singer of Imagine Dragons and founding member Dan Reynolds is in fact from Utah, went to BYU. I think he's still trying to change the Mormon church from the inside. I don't know, but that is where it all began. The name Imagine Dragons is actually an anagram, and no one besides the members and their spouses and the extensive list of four members knows what it means, and I doubt they're going to explain it to us anytime soon. A lot of people have theorized what it could possibly be an anagram of. A pretty popular theory is ragged insomnia, but the band has actually poked fun of that several times, so that's probably not the case. Or they're playing like 4D chess with us, which I don't think they're doing that.
So, if you've lived under a rock for the past while and haven't heard of them, you may be wondering, is their music any good?
It's not.
It is in fact bad. You probably knew this already. I probably don't have to tell you any of this. But why don't we find out why it's bad?
However, before we do that, we do have like two disclaimers.
Everything in this video is for comedic purposes except for the stuff that's true. It is up to you as the viewer to figure out which is which.
Also, just because we have our own opinions does not mean you have to have the same opinions. You can actually do whatever you want, and you can think however you want. That's the beauty of life. Peace and love.
You may be wondering what our credentials are, as we're just two 20-somethings on the internet, but we were in the trenches, the Imagine Dragons trenches, for a while. I was fully locked in from 2014 to 2018. And also, MC's got a degree in music.
I mean, I might as well use my degree for something. Our story begins with Dan Reynolds. He makes a YouTube channel called B-Ball Hot Stuff 24 to share silly songs he made with his friends, and also Brendan Urie playing guitar in his house. After introducing the world to the wonders of Mormonism, he attended BYU and then started a band with some other students there called Imagine Dragons. No, not that Imagine Dragons. This is like a prototype of the band that we know today. And the music was okay.
But then, everyone left. There's no drama here, they just had better things to do. In 2008, Dan Hot Stuff Reynolds and two of his bandmates, drummer Andrew Tolman and bassist Dave Lemke, relocated to Vegas, recruiting Daniel Wayne Sermon on guitar and Andrew's wife Brittany on keyboards. Prior to releasing their first real EP, the band played at a talent show and won! Great job, guys.
And they got a great sound. Congratulations. We see a lot of good things for you in the future.
Future Catboy Ben McKee was in the audience and later became their bassist.
He dropped out of Berklee College of Music in his final semester to join the band. I guess that paid off?
In 2009, the band released their debut self-titled EP. They would release one EP per year until 2012, with their sound evolving from imitating the Killers to imitating an indie band that was imitating the Killers.
The Imagine Dragons EP features 5 songs, all of which sound like they listened to Hot Fuss and tried to make it short and bad and Mormon.
Short and bad and Mormon is what they called me back in the day. The opener, I Need a Minute, portrays the vices of Las Vegas. It could be sex, it could be drugs, it could be gambling, and yet he makes all those things sound fairly uninteresting. Meanwhile, on the track Uptight, this as yet unheard of band crafts a cutting song about the perils of fame. And the EP quiets down for the final song, Drive, which is a nice song with Christian undertones, or overtones. Both, probably.
Over a decade later, the band would re-release their early EPs in a sort of like Taylor Swift from the Vault bonus tracks style, and the bonus track they included for this EP is comically bad.
My brain is sparking like a burned out fuse.
Overall, the EP strikes us as quite Las Vegas-y and weirdly preoccupied with fame and fortune for a band who, frankly, had neither of those things at this point. They should have been at the club instead of writing about the club. Also, Dan Reynolds is not always the greatest vocalist. There's a distinctive unpolished sound here, but he certainly doesn't lack enthusiasm.
I think I made it.
Here are expert suggestions on how the EP could be improved. Number 1, make it nightcore. I feel like that would fix it somehow.
Can somebody please show me the fucking dragon? I know it's there. Show it to me.
As we journeyed through the extensive Imagine Dragons discography, we made note of lyrics that were strangely worded or, slightly suggestive. Also, there were Imagine Dragons shoegaze moments.
There were not. You can't say that. That's not even kind of true.
Cover Up had male and female vocals. You want to know what other bands had male and female vocals? My Bloody Valentine, Slow Dive, Swirlies, Drop 19s, probably some other ones. Need I say more?
With their new lineup finalized, the band would go to record their second EP, along with a bunch of demos that they teased on YouTube, but then never actually released.
These demos join a surprisingly extensive list of unreleased songs from the band. I was kind of obsessed with these when I was in early high school. I spent probably hours poring through YouTube trying to find any clips I could of them performing these songs live or of other unreleased songs, and so far none of the songs in this demo collection have ever actually been released aside from the clips they put on their YouTube, but I know they're out there somewhere. Show me the songs, Dan. I want to see them.
Hi, editor's note. Dan doesn't have to show me the songs now because someone leaked them on YouTube 6 months ago, ? Imagine me, I'm minding my business. I'm editing this YouTube video. I go to youtube.com and I type in Imagine Dragons Starlight to go find one of those old live performances that I've watched 1,000 times. And I find a studio recording. My friends will know this, but I was kind of insufferable about these songs when I was 14 or 15. Why am I being emotional over Imagine Dragons? Y'all can go back to watching the rest of this video. I just needed to this is my reaction to the information. Anyway.
The songs that did make it ended up on this 2010 EP titled Hell and Silence. I'll be honest, there could be a bit more silence.
So this EP sounds a bit more refined than their first release. Or at the very least, they got someone else to produce it. Or they grew as people, I don't know. Between Tyler and I, we're torn over whether or not the first track is good. I think it's kind of fun.
I think it sounds like garbage. On this sophomore release, Dan Reynolds continues his career as half of a rapper.
We can't attain, we are the entry for entities to entice and entertain.
And overall, the song Celine was a pretty major cultural moment for us when we were both 14.
This is my heart, it's on the line.
I even performed it live at my 9th grade talent show. With this ukulele.
Past transgressions aside, this EP is okay. But here's how we can make it better.
The only thing we have in our notes just says, do better.
Exactly. However, we were blessed with one Dan Reynolds slut-era moment.
Their next EP, titled It's Time, was released in March 2011 and would be the final project featuring Andrew and Brittany Tallman. They would both leave Imagine Dragons at the end of the summer, right before the band began to take off and gain label attention. On this EP, the band really started to refine their style into more of an indie pop sound, and it actually makes for some pretty enjoyable music.
The EP is half enjoyable and half deeply, deeply questionable. Highlights of this EP include It's Time, Amsterdam, and The River, which we believe are actually pretty good.
The From the Vault bonus track, Dolphins, was actually once a 30-second acoustic clip that circulated throughout the fandom for over a decade before they actually released this full studio version. And in my opinion, maybe it's just because I was waiting for it for so long, like subconsciously, but it's actually a pretty good song.
And then, of course, there's Pantomime. And finally, there's America.
America, don't you cry.
I genuinely forgot that it existed, and I was completely fine living in that reality.
It's a mess of patriotic garbage and it's not interesting to listen to. I don't really know what else to say about it.
Of course, it would be remiss not to mention that Pantomime graced us with many, many iconic lyrics.
However, there were sadly no shoegaze moments.
You know, this might sound controversial, so do forgive me. I'm starting to think they are not a shoegaze band.
Following the Tubman's departure, the band now needed a keyboardist and a drummer, and so their bassist Ben recruited drummer Daniel Plassman and keyboardist Teresa Firmino. Sadly, as a shocking loss for feminism, Teresa did leave the band a couple of months later, leaving the lineup to the 4-member group that we know today. Wait, hold on a second, I'm getting a call. Hello? He left? There's only 3 of them now? Why did... In November 2011, Imagine Dragons signed with Interscope Records under their subsidiary Kid in the Corner, founded by producer Alex the Kid. They would work with Alex to produce their next EP and first major label release, and first saw success with the re-release of their 2011 single, It's Time.
That I'm never changing who I am.
The Continued Silence EP would serve as their first major label release, and as a teaser for their debut album. Its complete track listing would make its way onto the deluxe version of this album, titled Night Visions. Their grand major label debut received mixed reviews.
To put it kindly, Night Visions is complicated. On the one hand, there's some pretty good songs on here, like Tiptoe, Nothing Left to Say, and some of those tracks that were previously released on EPs, such as Amsterdam, and those are pretty nice indie pop. And if the rest of the album was like them, we would live in a more just and beautiful universe. However, we don't, and the rest of the songs of this album are...
Waking up to ash and dust. I wipe my brow and I sweat my rust.
Radioactive was a slow burn success, eventually skyrocketing the band into popularity and landing the number 3 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 chart by 2013.
Perhaps the worst offender of trying to appeal to the broadest audience possible is their single On Top of the World, which you've probably heard in a Walmart somewhere.
I'm on top of the world. Hey. I'm on top of the world. Hey.
Sounds like it belongs on a compilation like Family Barbecue Greatest Hits, or Now That's What I Call Suburban Middle Class.
And then they put Demons and On Top of the World back to back on the album, which, talk about emotional whiplash.
I feel like every single time on the album there was a song with some sort of emotional depth and authenticity, it would be followed up by like the worst pop song imaginable to like soften the blow, I guess. It's like there was someone in the studio who was like, the music can never be too serious, guys, chill out.
The tracklist is filled out by some of the best songs from their EP days, with minimal to no changes made to them.
But I keep coming up short.
The album's closer, Nothing Left to Say, is honestly pretty good. The instrumental, vocals, and message of the song all fit together quite nicely. It's dramatic, but has a relaxing and slightly foreboding outro. There's viola. I like this song. Ironically, they added a short hidden track after it.
I threw some rocks up at your window.
Night Visions has many, many, many bonus tracks and many additions, and fun fact, there's actually no definitive version of this album. The closest you can get is the super deluxe version, which I have on CD, but it is sadly missing the iTunes exclusive track Fallen, which yes, I did buy on iTunes when I was 14. The majority of these bonus tracks were actually previously released on their EPs, aside from Fallen, Working Man, and Cha-Ching.
It's hard to say if there's a cohesive narrative present in this album, particularly since half the songs are from different releases originally, and the endless stream of bonus versions further complicates things, but is probably quite profitable. Although I can also see the appeal of releasing as many old songs as possible on the new label so new fans could access them, but I digress. Overall, this album returns quite frequently to themes of major life changes, which makes a lot of sense for a growing band's first album. Also quite present are themes of fear and self-hatred, except for the one song where they're really, really, really happy for some reason.
As you can probably tell, we have many suggestions for this album. Number 1, please get Alex the Kid out of the studio. Number 2, maybe don't name your album after the abbreviation for Nevada. Just a thought.
Also, Dan Reynolds shakes that thing in Working Man, which wouldn't be particularly notable, except it seems to be a pattern developing.
Following the release of the inescapable smash hit that was Radioactive, the band put out 3 more tracks from the album as singles, 2 of which were very, very successful, cementing their position as the latest up-and-coming rock band in the American pop landscape.
Following the success of Night Visions, including releasing a live album from its subsequent Into the Night tour, the band returned to the studio to work on their next album. In 2014, Dan told MTV that, as a band of perfectionists, they wouldn't want to put out a record until they feel really good about it, and who knows how long that could take. Regardless, on February 17th, 2015, their second album, Smoke and Mirrors, was released. It received mixed reviews.
On their sophomore album, Imagine Dragons are trying to change their image. They're not just that band that made your radio-friendly pop songs. They aren't just the radioactive band. They make music for car commercials and Transformers movies now, and above all, they're the American rock band with the gold guitar. And they were certainly trying to do something different with this album.
While Night Visions at times felt flat and generic, Smoke plus Mirrors at least has some weird shit going on here, although it doesn't always pay off. MC classed Gold as belonging in r/perfectly cut screams. While I maintain it could have been good if the band didn't use the stupidest noises imaginable instead of cunty guitars. Notable strategies for making this album include hiding Wayne Sermon in a corner and forbidding him from leaving on pain of death.
Other interesting experiments on the album are the sheer amount of synth bass. Like, could they not just get Ben in the studio for like half of the songs?
The big single off this album is I Bet My Life, a song which I keep forgetting exists at all. There's a lot of screaming on this record on songs like Dream and Smoke and Mirrors. While Hopeless Opus has an extended sports metaphor for some reason. There's also a couple deluxe editions that have songs they wrote for movies and a handful of other songs that are okay.
As for the good songs, I think Summer is pretty good, but Tyler seems to believe that it's being haunted by some sort of synthesizer spirit. However, the one thing we do agree on is that the closer, The Fall, is probably the best song on the album.
Despite our issues with the songs, which are perhaps the main thing when it comes to albums, the overall theming of Smoke and Mirrors is pretty interesting, in the immortal words of Greg Davis. Let's dig into the narrative. Earlier songs in Imagine Dragons' catalog contain straightforward Christian messaging, which is a weird thing to say about the Radioactive band. For instance, The Pit was written while Dan was on his mission, and is basically him lamenting someone residing in this dark pit, i.e. sin and unenlightenment, while he sits at the top with sunshine and flowers and wishes he could save them, i.e. bring them to faith and heaven. Cool stuff. On this album, though, there are strong themes of doubt in his religion, including the title track where he questions the reality of what he's been taught. This comes back again and again, with Dream boldly declaring that everything is shit and fake. However, contrasting themes are still quite present. In Trouble, the same song where Dan repeatedly asks people to pray for him, he admits to having no faith. The opener, Shots, explores the idea of being damned right from the moment of birth. Although the song is addressed to a romantic partner, apologizing and repenting for everything you've ever done is so Christian. Overall, there's a sense of clinging desperately to something you no longer believe in, which is compelling. Unfortunately, the album is not good.
I am a head case, I am the color of bone.
The cover art of Smoke and Mirrors, its singles, and also the music video for Shots were all done by the artist Tim Cantor, and are really neat pieces of art. Lyrically speaking, the themes of questioning and even rejecting faith are pretty interesting, especially compared to the overtly religious themes in their older music. Probably sucked for Dan, though.
As for the slut era moments, why did they name the album S&M? Much to think about.
There's a line in one of the songs that says, "Man is what he loves," and I don't know what he meant by this. While Smoke and Mirrors saw Imagine Dragons attempt to morph into a rock band, their third studio album was yet another evolution. So I guess it's fitting they decided to name it Evolve.
A year after the release of their second album, the band went on hiatus, returning to the studio in the fall. The fall? Imagine Dragons reference. The resulting album received mixed reviews. It's decidedly more electronic than their previous releases, so I suppose it could be called an evolution. However, neither of us are really inspired to care about this album.
I genuinely gave up on writing any notes halfway through listening to this album because I had, well, nothing left to say.
Alright, someone's gotta care about this album, so I will. Evolve has a brighter sound overall compared to their previous works, with some clear 80s pop rock influence, as well as modern electronic pop.
I don't know why, but I guess it's got something to do with you.
It seemed like a natural evolution from their earlier synth-heavy style. Dan continues his now trademark style of screaming in songs that really aren't that loud, and I'm beginning to think it's because he just can't sing.
The album marked a completely new era of success for the band, first with the lead single Believer, you know that one, and then the horrible, awful, grating anthem Thunder. Believer gets a music video with a dude from Rocky, and then Thunder gets re-released twice with two different artists, and is generally annoying and omnipresent.
There is a noticeable shift in the lyrics, marked by a more hopeful tone to match the bright poppy sound, though the familiar themes of depression and self-loathing are still present. But while Smoke and Mirrors was defined by doubt, this album is a lot more confident and direct. Dan Reynolds is a new man who is into dangerous love. Many of the songs are to do with him trying to repair his marriage, but the album also offers classics such as Yesterday, a strange drinking song kind of thing, and Mouth of the River, which has pretty nice chorus and dreadful verses. It also reintroduces the themes of sin and cleanliness.
A couple of months after releasing Evolve, the band released the single Next to Me, and then tacked it onto the beginning of the album for some reason, despite the fact that it neither matches the tone nor the genres of the album, at all. They were kind of going for, an 80s theme with the majority of the album, and then Next to Me is... this? And while I'm all for, interesting music and diverse track listings and subverting expectations, it's so totally different that it just sounds awkward and out of place, and also really depressing.
They sort of fucked up by sampling gospel singers who were clearly much better vocalists than Dan, who is, as always, screaming over pretty calm guitars.
After the release of Evolve, the band set out on a pretty extensive world tour, and Tyler and I actually both went and saw them on this tour, though we were in very different places. I saw them in Nashville, where I got this t-shirt, this armband, and also the patch that's on my jacket. Tyler saw them twice, so he has more creds than I do.
Hi, editor's note. Leading up to this concert, I definitely added them on Twitter 5 times, asking them if they could play Cover Up at the concert in Nashville, which they obviously did not do, because they probably haven't played it since 2010? The ways that 15-year-old me's mind worked were truly amazing. Also, I definitely cried at the concert, and a lady got mad at me for waving my little foam light stick around, so I'm sorry for being happy. I'm sorry for having whimsy and joy in my life. Am I still bitter about that? Maybe. Anyway, moving on.
Say you're basic, say you're easy.
Who keeps calling Dan easy? Who are you?
A little over a year after the release of Evolve, the band put out its sister album, Origins, which was a neat idea and concept, in order to evolve, you should acknowledge where you come from. However, while Evolve was just kind of boring, Origins was very frustrating to listen to. While more songs stuck out to us as good or at the very least interesting, a lot of them were just egregiously bad.
Origins received mixed reviews, as usual. But okay, let's talk about what we did like for a second. Burnout is one of the tolerable songs and is notably one of 2 self-produced songs on the album. Intriguing. Also, allegedly, the song only samples them slapping Ben's ass, so that's nice. And remarkably, one of the songs we liked most was Digital. It's not even good. We're so fucked, musically speaking.
As for the bad parts of the album, a lot of the songs just had this like faux revolutionary theme or really lukewarm comments on the state of the world, which I guess isn't super unusual for the band. But like, come on, we gotta do something different, guys. Also, like Evolve, the cover art was done by the artist Beeple, and while it is kind of interesting, he did get really into NFTs later, so that just goes to show the integrity of this work.
Another good chunk of the lyrics reflect the turbulence in Dan's marriage at this time, understandably, as well as whatever the fuck Digital is about. Evolve, like their debut album, was at times kind of flat and straightforward, but Origins is much more sonically scattered. Some of the tracks take influence from hip-hop and R&B, neither of which they pull off, and then there's the aforementioned Digital, which I remember being very divisive when it came out.
I want a new world without the order. I want to resurrect and live a little shorter.
There's Machine, their obligatory "this track has guitars in it" song, so we know they haven't killed Wayne and sold his organs. And of course there's more straight electronic pop, because they are still determined not to actually use most of their members most of the time.
Aside from Machine being an example of Platts creates world worst beat asked to leave the studio, it first of all presents Imagine Dragons as not being part of the Machine, aka the music industry, despite the fact that they are a major label band with numerous radio hits, including several songs that we still cannot escape. But it also has Dan claiming that he is not part of the Machine, he is the Machine. So now the Machine is supposed to be desirable? I guess?
Like, in this song, they claim not to be for sale, which is a hilarious line from the band best known for having songs in absolutely massive movie and video game franchises. But then, of course, they have their Fame Sucks song, which is Bullet in a Gun, where Dan laments the transient nature of success and how artists are tossed away after people lose interest in them. It's a violent metaphor.
But let's be real here, guys. He's been writing songs about how much fame sucks since literally nobody knew about them, so I don't really believe him.
The band also makes a stab at political commentary with the tracks Real Life and Love, which made me incandescently angry because they're both so stupid. Real Life is a pushback against doom scrolling and despair, which I can understand, but it does so by establishing the subjects as separate from the tragedy and violence they're witnessing, and then encouraging them to live a real life away from the news cycle. The implication is that their lives are somehow more real than the people experiencing these tragedies, which I find galling, frankly.
Like, the song references 9/11 and the Boston Marathon bombing, but it is explicitly described as a love song because the song is about how Dan, or the person singing, but let's be real here, it is Dan, the song is about Dan, the only thing real in his life is his wife. I'm not sure what they're trying to say here by being like, well, the world sucks, people die, but at least I have you. And it's like, maybe we shouldn't frame it in this way, you know? There's a way to communicate that message, you know, of being like, life is weird and it's chaotic and like nothing ever makes sense, but sometimes there are people who are grounding and make your life better. But perhaps that should be through a lens of your own personal experiences and like personal struggles rather than fucking 9/11.
It all speaks to an underlying place of privilege where you can choose to disengage. And this is written by a white American man with a shit ton of money. But they do offer a solution, which is love, where Dan makes the bold, challenging statement, we don't have to kill one another. I mean, why didn't anyone ever think of that, you know? Why don't we all just chill? It's a nice sentiment, it is, but it just feels ignorant to hear yet another "why do we have to see color" refrain from a white liberal. War seems to be a theme that comes up again and again with them. Like, their video for Demons is all about how everyone's got their own dark past, you know, and one of the people shown is a war vet. And then, of course, there's every other song that they've written about war and violence. This is a band that's made millions off faux revolutionary music about apocalypse and deadly battles for freedom, which is apparently fine when they write a lucrative movie soundtrack, but when it comes to real revolution and tragedy, apparently that's just too real for them. They seem to love using these aesthetics to express personal struggles with mental illness or fame or major life changes, but are uncomfortable engaging with the real thing. Like, okay, I don't know why this specific pair of songs made me as angry as it did, and maybe it's not commentary on their whole entire everything, but this tendency to disengage is something that I see all the time lately, and it's frustrating because a lot of people don't have that option, and they seem perfectly happy to engage with these things when they want to. Disappointed, but not surprised by the lack of radical politics in my Imagine Dragons record.
We're by no means trying to make a judgment of them as people, and either way, outside of the artist's intent, once a work of art has been released, it's kind of in the hands of the audience to determine what the messaging is supposed to mean.
The album did grant us one very strange and unintentionally suggestive lyric.
Death can make you hard.
To be completely honest with you guys, we stopped listening to this band after they released Origins. I mean, as people who live on Earth, we've heard some new songs here and there on the radio and in commercials, but we haven't been following the band for a while because we just kind of grew up.
Despite our commitments to both journalistic integrity and the bit, we will not listen to Mercury or Loom for the sake of our sanity.
At the end of the Origins album cycle, the band released a double album called Mercury Parts 1 and 2 across 2021 and 2022. We had the joy of looking through Genius lyrics and uncovered some rather interesting things.
I don't have analysis to offer here. Sorry, guys.
The band's most recent album, Loom, which is unfortunately not about fiber arts, was released about a year ago. Following drummer Daniel Plattman's lengthy hiatus and eventual departure from the band, this is actually their first release recorded as a trio. The change in lineup likely had an impact on their creative process and musical style, especially because Platts had been part of the band for over a decade, but who's to say?
I mean, if we listened to the album, we would know. But we're not going to do that.
It's where my demons hide. It's where my demons hide.
Imagine Dragons has been prevalent in the pop music landscape for over a decade, so needless to say, their style has evolved over the years, no pun intended. From their first album, there was a clear shift in their sound, likely due to label signage and working with a new producer. The long songs they included in their early albums, such as Nothing Left to Say and The Fall, are generally the better songs in their catalog because they aren't designed to be as commercial. Like, they weren't designed to be singles necessarily, it's just a song the band wrote. So we kind of made this entire video to figure out why the band is so popular yet so hated, and I think it's because of their broad appeal. They simultaneously make music for everyone and for no one. Their music is radio-friendly and commercial, but not everyone is going to like that. So I feel like people hate them for the genericness that allows them to be popular in the first place.
But there's lots of generic music that doesn't get the same kind of vitriol, so what's going on? I offer the argument that their music contradicts itself. They're trying to be too many things at once. They want soft emotional music, but loud bombastic drums. They want screaming vocals and lukewarm instrumentals. They want to be the American rock band with the gold guitar, but they barely feature their guitarist or, God forbid, their bassist. Or they want to be a pop band, but without being pigeonholed as a pop band. They'll sell their music to any big film franchise or advertisement, but you can't call them sellouts. None of this adds up. None of this makes any sense. Anything that becomes so omnipresent is going to attract hate. There's lots of things that we personally dislike, but people will have different opinions and even hate some things that we liked. But I think we can all agree on one beautiful thing. Somewhere out in the world, Dan Reynolds is shaking it.
This video was never meant to be a sort of like hate post for the band by any means. In a way, Imagine Dragons kind of changed our lives, and it's just so fascinating to me how bands and albums and songs can change our lives in ways we'd never expect. As much as we may have our critiques for their music and have our own opinions about them, even the first band you ever became obsessed with that you may not consider your favorite band anymore may have connected you with other types of music and amazing people.
Since we started making this video, a lot has changed in our lives. Even more has changed since we first met and were actively listening to this stuff. Some foundational aspects have stayed the same, My love for music is still fully intact, albeit with some more taste and clarity. Back in the day, the kind of music I listened to was some of the only music I'd heard, and every new song was a revelation. Now that I've experienced more of what's out there, I can identify constants, songs, and artists that have stuck with me for a lot longer than Imagine Dragons has. But my fascination with music hasn't changed. In fact, it's altered my life trajectory in ways that I can't even describe without completely doxing myself. And it's brought the two of us together over and over again. In part, this video examines the power of that kind of passion for music, and also the fact that even shit music can have meaning to it. It's also a way of finally putting this history to bed, once and for all. I'm proud to say that I have no idea what Imagine Dragons are doing right now, and I won't find out. It's nice to let go of a bit of our dark past. We've built a strong enough future for ourselves that I think we'll manage that. This video took a really fucking long time to make. It's so old that in the intro I call myself barely employed. I've had 6 jobs since then, something like that. And classes.
I mean, I graduated from college. We've had to keep updating the script over time because we make a reference to something that happened a year ago, and then now it's been 2 years since that happened, and...
I'd like to give a special thanks to the person who saw me, Tyler, in a chain cafe working on this script back in January 2024. You thought it was funny. I hope you're doing well. I wonder if you'll see this and if you'll think it was all worth it in the end. I'll be back at that cafe if you want to find me. I'll be there every day for the next 20 years.
Also, thank you to my thesis advisor for putting up with me working on this script instead of my thesis last year. Sorry, but I finished the thesis and I finished this video finally, so I think it was worth it in the end. And of course, thank you to Tyler for being willing to make this insane video with me. I am just so glad we were able to put this thing together. Anyway, our last gift to you guys is this list we made of everything we did instead of writing the script, since we did not want to think about Imagine Dragons, but alas, we had to. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you guys are having a lovely day or night, whatever time it is. Hope it's a good one. Bye all.
Take me back to 9